My name is Ron Van Santa, and this time we have a video of why Horeb is not a mountain, and definitely not Mount Sinai. Since it seems I have some explaining to do here, a little gift for you for Christmas 2023. It seems I'm being compelled to explain some basic Hebrew grammar to the lazy and ludicrous here. Compelled to explain some very basic grammar that I alluded to in my rebuttal of this ridiculous article. A demeaning article that suggests that ancient Hebrews were so stupid that they didn't know the difference between a sea and a canal. And even suggesting that a canal can cause a major tsunami. As well as so stupid that they didn't know the difference between an overflowing river and an underflowing creek. A river coming from a great distance away, unlike the sea that they could actually see. But most importantly, an article suggests that those Hebrews didn't know the vast difference between natural and supernatural events. A demeaning difference. A difference demeaning the Lord. So, naturally, I published a rebuttal. A rebuttal against what might be considered anti-Semitic slander. But mostly against that anti-supernaturalism. Naturalism gone nuts. A rebuttal that I strangely got some pushback on, though not from that particular author. Pushback, since some supposed scholars are clearly defiant in this grammar area. Deficient, and you might even say downright defiant in this grammar area. Naughty, naughty. This isn't grammar. It's a matter of vocabulary. I didn't know I had to explain that. Horeb is called a mount several times, very plainly in the Old Testament. As to whether or not Sinai and Horeb are the same mountain, and exactly where it is, are matters that I am unable to find definitive markers for. But I am certain that Mount Sinai, Horeb, is not in Saudi Arabia. The same as Noah's Ark is not on Mount Ararat. Naughty, naughty. Scholars refusing to be taught anything other than basic vocabulary, and instead bowing out of being taught the very basics. Thanks, but I think we'll just have to disagree. As if bowing out were the noble thing for a scholar to do. Sloppy scholars insisting that Horeb gets honorable mention in the Hebrew Bible, and even equating the less than honorable Horeb with the holy Mount Sinai. A most inequitable equation, a mountainous error, and equally horrible grammar. When Horeb actually, is actually a region, and an unholy region at that. An arid and a damnable region. A hostile region that the Hebrew diaspora were consigned to for nearly 40 years. A lifetime consignment. A lifetime sentence for that intransigent regeneration. For a generation laden with feet of clay. a generation that refused to be moved from Horeb, from a truly horrible land, not even for the promise of promised land. And by that ellipsis slip, I mean move to a promised land, or if you will, move to an promised land. Grammatical articles that are totally lacking in the Hebrew, and similarly lacking in reference to a Horeb as well, since it is also a land. Is there an unused indefinite article in Hebrew? Yes, Hebrew does not have a specific indefinite article like a or an in English. Instead, the concept of indefiniteness is often conveyed through context, or the absence of the definite article. Ha, ho, the. As chat above notes, articles that must be supplied by the English translator instead, since our English seems so incredibly dependent on that indefiniteness. Now, that grammar wasn't all that bad, no, was it? You still okay, dear reader? You okay? And this grammar privation should come as no surprise to any literate Hebrew. Nor is this privation completely unique to the Hebrews either. No, this grammar privation is totally lacking in the earlier Akkadian as well, and also lacking in your later Greek, among many other languages. So this really ought to be seen as a sloppy mistake of our modern day scholars. No, our older scholars knew their Greek and Hebrew better. Much, much better. As Glenn Fritz mentioned in his book, The Exodus Mysteries, even the hymn writer Horatius Bonar knew his Hebrew better than that. Horace knew that Horeb is the name of a region, not of a mountain, is evident from the fact that the Hebrew preposition al, upon, is never used in connection with Horeb. And this was a man without a trace of Horeb or Hebrew hostility, since Horace was never in Horeb, unlike me and my wife. And of course, Fritz presents many other devastating arguments in his masterful book. Many other grammatical arguments and examples. And I'm not going to go through them here. Just let it be known that context is still king in all translation efforts. And grammar is still its slave, like it or not. And to that context end, those 17 Old Testament references are generally allusions to a certain mountain in Horeb, or more specifically to a mountain in the region of Horeb, with that certain mountain being Mount Sinai, the all-important mountain of the Ten Commandments. And as I have proven unequivocally in earlier articles, as well as mathematically in YouTube videos, it is that particular mountain in Saudi that is the actual Mount Sinai. But allow me to close with just one more comment, this time with a vocabulary comment, just to put this linguistic ignorance to bed. A not-so-novel comment that suggests that there were also considerable vocabulary borrowing going on here. And in these biblical passages, we have Hebrew vocabulary that was also shared by the Greeks. What is commonly known as loanwords in the linguistic industry. Shareware, you might say. Vocabulary borrowing going on long before the Septuagint was written. Borrowing going on long before the sophisticated writings of Sophocles even. Going on with the Greek word horion. Yes, horion. Sound a little like Horeb to you? Just a little? Come on now. And don't even think about objecting to the uppercase front loading of that word, since there was no such thing as upper and lower case back then. With the case ending of this particular lemma ending, indicating a neuter nominative singular. What? What? You don't like that loan word of mine? Or you just don't like the singular part? Well, how about horia then? As in horiba. How is that for a dilemma now? With a nominative neuter in the plural sense now. A plural that definitely doesn't work with a singular mountain. Not unless you drunks are seeing double. Words that are found in 1 Samuel 11:3 and Exodus 10:4 of our beloved Septuagint. Words that mean territory of Israel or your territory respectively. Greek words that clearly mean region or boundaries, if you like, exactly as hymn writer Horace so easily surmised with the Hebrew grammar. And Thayer says as much. Thank you, Thayer. Now, do you think the pronunciation of our horion is bad? Or even our horia? That our Hebrew and Greek words have radically different sounds to them? Not to mention a cognitive dissonance? Since these seem to have two E's instead? Well then, you really don't know the history of vowels in the ancient languages. You don't know pronunciation very well. You really don't have a clue. And as cryptologist Brian Collis, a great cryptologist, has said repeatedly, try pronouncing Canaan again, and again, and again, until you realize how asinine your argument really is. Finally, do you want to question the final consonant of this word? The final consonant of our Horeb? The B of Horeb? Well, now you are questioning the Hebrew bayit. Questioning that this appended B indicates some sort of dwelling place. Questioning the etymology of the Hebrew be. And you have lost that appended argument as well, since that is the scholarly consensus, as rare as it is. A most wonderful appending, gracious, now yielding an English gloss of region of dwelling for this now perfectly understandable Hebrew word. A translation that fits the entire biblical context perfectly. And your glossing over that extraordinary fit is both ignoble and careless, naughty, certainly not scholarly. But perhaps you too have feet of clay, just as those Hebrews did. Well then, you'd better watch out for the quicksand in your wacky wonderland, since you don't understand pneumatics or hydraulics at all. For even creeks and canals don't dry all that fast. No, not without the supernatural. Well, wishing you all a Merry Christmas, folks. From Ron and Paula.
Oh,
Bye-bye.
come let us adore him. Oh, come let us adore him. Oh, come let us adore him. Christ the Lord.